Good afternoon, everybody. This is About the Labor live for Saturday, the 25th of January, 2020. Today's show is hosted by me, Joe Johnson, owner of PurplePTSD.com and VikingsTerritory.com, as well as PurpleTerritoryRadio.com, and I'm also the host of Morning Joe's, a podcast I do with Joe Oberly every Tuesday or Wednesday morning. We just had Tommy Kramer on the show this week and Mike Tice on the show last week. Coach Tice is hosting a new vlog and podcast. Both are called Odds and Ends with Mike Tice. You can find that on VikingsTerritory.com. Covers a lot of football stuff, a lot of betting stuff, and a lot of horse racing stuff as well if you're into that. I think he owns a racehorse. Excuse me. I don't know why at 35 I think I can chug a Red Bull before these shows and not have like gout of the face. I was live the other day after the news that the Vikings had named Gary Kubiak as their offensive coordinator for this season, and I didn't see a lot of you in the chat, and so I'm wondering if there's a notifications issue or maybe it was just a weird timing thing, but we will see today if the regular gang of guys shows up. It's always a little bit different on the weekends. But I want to start up by reminding everybody that we have launched our social media arm of the Purple Territory Media Network. That includes a message board, live chat rooms for live events, or just if you like to do live chat rooms a la Discord. Completely customizable profiles with avatars, followers, friends, DMs. You can upload photos from your computer or from Instagram. You can embed videos. We actually have a program that's a lot like Twitter that we're calling Vikesgeist, and it's actually pretty cool. So we have about 1,000 registered people now. We're really looking to become the focal point of online Vikings fandom, and so hopefully that is something that you'll take a look at and subscribe to. It's free to use, obviously. Go to purpleptsd.com or vikingsterritory.com and click on create an account. And you'll see all the different features up in the top menu. But since I didn't get a lot of feedback from you guys the other day, I wanted to see how you all felt about the Kubiak signing. We start out the shows now. I forgot last time, but we do a roll call. So if you're here and you want to participate in the discussion in general, or especially today, just type that you're here. I'll put the first one out there myself. Sorry, I'm still battling this cold/bronchitis situation. Tastes like regret. And so I sound a little bit different than usual. I think I sound wiser, like the type of guy that you would get bingo numbers from I-28. But yeah, starting off with Kubiak, I obviously was pushing for that move on this show, on the site. I am very, very happy, but more so relieved. In retrospect, I mean, it was pretty clear it was going to be him the entire time. I think the only variables were whether or not he would want to do it, because he retired from full-time coaching due to health reasons. And he talked a lot about that this season, how he liked going home earlier and the less amount of stress that he had. The other variable being kind of tied in with that, but whether or not it might have been his son Clint, who was the quarterback's coach last season for the Vikings, whether he would take over. But I think, a lot of people are asking, why is that something to get encouraged by? The offense was kind of all over the place this season. And first of all, I think that Kubiak obviously didn't have a lot of say on game day in regards to play calling. He was more of a guy that would break down film and help with the game plan during the week, help with, they orchestrate the first drive on offense, and they practice it. And it was Stefanski who was then making the play calls on Sunday or Monday or Thursday or whatever, or Saturday in the playoffs. And so I think the lack of adjustment that we saw, some of the lack of just answers that this offense had against good defenses, especially good defensive fronts, I think that was on Stefanski. And I don't want to be super negative about Stefanski. He was a very loyal guy. He'd been with the team forever. He earned that spot in Cleveland, but I am glad that he's gone. I think it's a huge sign. A couple things. First, that George Patton, the assistant GM of the Vikings, withdrew his name from the running in Cleveland as their GM. Apparently, he was uncomfortable with some of maybe they were giving Stefanski more power than Patton wanted. I think maybe Patton wanted a Spielman role, and in getting Stefanski might have, excuse me, a triangle of authority type situation. I think the way they put it was a division of labor, which reminds me of my intro to political science classes that I took at the U, because I'm a poli-sci major, or one of my majors was poli-sci anyway. But that's not a good sign, that Patton wouldn't want to take over that job. Beyond that, I think a lot of us fully expected George Edwards to follow Stefanski to Cleveland, and that isn't the case. He was hired by the Cowboys instead. And so, I don't know. It's Cleveland. That's really all I have to say about that in regards to Patton. But I don't know. I don't want to be negative about Stefanski, but when you have an offense that at times was one of the best in the league, statistically, a quarterback who was playing top 3 or top 4, when you have Calvin75 just asked, do you think that there's something to all of the younger assistants leaving? Kind of, but maybe not in the way that you think. I mean, first of all, I think that the fact that Edwards was fired after the 49ers game was a sign that Zimmer was either told or he understands the league well enough to know that this season did not go good enough. Joe Oberly and I often disagree about this on Morning Joe's, because he thinks that, only one team wins the Super Bowl, and people's expectations, my expectations, are subjective. And he has a point there. But I try to align my expectations with the expectations of the team. And the ownership of this team expects a Super Bowl. I mean, they've done everything right in terms of what owners can do. They've given Zimmer and Spielman basically a blank check to sign whomever they want. They've invested in Egan, in the best facility for a NFL team in the league. I know a lot of people aren't happy about how the stadium thing went, but they invested a lot of their own money into the stadium. And when there were more amenities needed, they paid for that. And so initially, like with Edwards leaving, for example, I think that was a sign that despite the fact that the owners and the Wilfs had come out the week before the Niners game saying that, or was the Saints game, saying they had, every intent on keeping Zimmer next season and beyond that, that game was such an embarrassment that Zimmer or the powers that be said there needs to be drastic change next year. Zimmer's contract is up next year. Spielman's is as well. And so that is part of it. I also think when you have success as a franchise, assistants leave because they get promoted. So they just get, that's just something that happens when your team is good. That's what happened with Shermer. That's what happened with Stefanski. In regards to Stefanski, again, though, I would not have hired him as a head coach. I know that the NFL is enamored with young, offensive-minded OCs becoming head coaches. You have Nagy, you have LaFleur, you have what's-his-face in McVay. but he hasn't shown to me really any ability to be even named along with those guys outside of his age and the position that he ran. This Vikings offense, from a skill position perspective, is the best in the NFL. Nobody has the 1-2 punch at wide receiver and Dalvin Cook and a tight end in Kyle Rudolph who catches almost 85% of the passes you throw his way, who is nigh unblockable in the end zone, or uncoverable, rather. Sorry, I've taken a lot of Dayquil today. And for them I mean, you look at, they did some great things in the run game, but that is wholly on Kubiak and Dennison and the zone blocking scheme. That's on them. That's not something Stefanski implemented. That's not something we saw last season, obviously. Beyond that, to be 22nd in the league in passing, that happens when you have a dominant run game, but that's not good enough when you have a quarterback that you've invested $84 million in, and when you have, again, the best 1-2 punch at receiver. Sure, Thielen was gone, injured a lot of the time, but the discrepancy between the games that they won and lost on offense, to me, is the single metric that should have really shown both the difference between Stefanski and Kubiak and the fact that Stefanski didn't really have any answers. When a team had a defensive game plan that Stefanski couldn't overcome, he had no answers. We talked to Tommy Kramer on Morning Joe's this week, and I'll link that in the article if you want to listen to it. But we talked about, in-game changes, and he talked about really the benefit of if things aren't working, just going up tempo. And we saw that in the second half of the Broncos game, how that worked, and they came back and they won that game. Excuse me again. But outside of that, we never really saw any changes. I mean, there was, the Vikings were leading 10-9 going into the half against the Packers, and there was like a minute and a half left. Granted, they were on like their own 10-yard line, but the crowd was booing because there was no get up and go. There was no, not panic, but gusto. And so, I don't know, when you score 30 points when you win and 17 when you lose, there's something wrong there. And I think a lot of that wrong is leaving with Stefanski. So, again, Kubiak has the experience. He's shown coming in as an offensive coordinator from 2013 to 2014. I talk about this all the time. The Ravens had the same starting personnel, and they went from 30th in rushing to 8th, and then they went to like the mid-20s in passing to 12th. I think if he's able to call plays, we're going to mitigate a lot of the negative things that we saw this season across the board on offense. If anyone else has any questions, it is open line Saturday. I know it's a little bit harder on Saturday because people are out and about and having lives, and I think we benefit a lot on this show from people being at work and being at 3 o'clock and being like, oh my God, 2 more hours. Oh, I guess I'll listen to this fat bastard wheeze. And so I'm just really excited about it. In regards to Patton, I think that was the right move for him. I think that he wants, first of all, some of these guys, I mean, they're smart enough to understand you have to make a good impression on your first, especially in your first gig, because you can be labeled as a failure. I mean, look at what Pete Carroll did. He was a spectacular failure, went down to college, waited forever, then came up at the right time. I think Patton, first of all, again, realizes it's Cleveland. There's dysfunction there in general, but things aren't going well, despite the fact that they do have, everyone was so excited about their roster. But if he's not given the power that he wants, why would he do it? He doesn't want to end up being a DeFilippo and ending up being a quarterback's coach after being labeled one of those up-and-coming guys. And so it was the right move for him. I like the continuity that we're seeing in that regard. I like the continuity, again, from Kubiak. He knows what worked and what didn't. He knows, Cousins talked about him glowingly this season, saying he played quarterback for 8 years. He knows. You don't get that from a lot of guys. Zimmer said Kubiak was the best thing that ever happened to him. So, of course he's going to hire him. But the Pat move doesn't really surprise me that much. It's the right move for him anyway. Beyond that, I just really quickly wanted to talk about, I don't know if you guys saw Cousins in the skills competition at the Pro Bowl, but man, yeah. A lot of people on our message board, there's a meme of the Vikings signing the barrier that was behind him as the left tackle. And a lot of anti-Cousins people are saying, well, yeah, there's no pass rush, so of course he's dropping dimes everywhere. But it was just, I don't know. We're seeing a lot of division on our social media and on our message board and all of that. I think a lot of people are kind of starting to figure out that, I'm 35. We've never had a franchise quarterback here outside of Culpepper for those couple of years, and you guys all know what happened there. It's just strange that a lot of people are really fighting tooth and nail to explain it away, I get that they're upset that their expectations aren't being met, but it's really not on Cousins. We get so hyper-focused on Cousins that we're not saying, well, the line, according to PFF, ended the season as the 27th pass blocking line in the NFL. That's horrible, obviously. Yes, Cousins is bad under pressure, and yes, you can't rely on getting him out of the pocket on every throw. I get that, but there needs to be a lot of investment in this offensive line this offseason, and I don't know what that means. I've seen a lot of articles saying, well, Riley Reif, he's serviceable, and, I get he has, I think $4.4 million in dead cap money, but I would eat that as opposed to paying him damn near $14 million for this season. I mean, assuming there's somebody that they want, either in the draft or through free agency. If there's someone that they want, that dead cap money at least opens up $9 million, depending on how the cap works. Versus what you would pay him, almost $10 million. And so, there needs to be a massive improvement on the left side of that line. You need, as much as it pains me, Elflein's not getting it done. I'd feel a lot more comfortable at where the Vikings are going to draft, finding a left guard in the draft. But I don't know, maybe I'm warming up to the idea of O'Neal moving over there and then finding a right guard or a right tackle in the draft at 26 or whatever. I don't know. I have to think about it. I don't know how you guys feel. My initial reaction was don't do it because he's doing so well over there. You don't want to screw that up. But he was supposed to be a project, and he picked up on things so quickly that I don't know if I'm that uncomfortable with him moving over there. He's just been really great. And if you put him over there and then you find a left guard, maybe Elflein would benefit from it. I don't know. I just think Reif, maybe I'm a little sour because of what happened against Zadarius Smith. I don't know. Let me know what you guys feel. I'm still really going back and forth on it, but I was 100% no a week ago, and now I'm kind of warming to it. Because I don't see the solution otherwise. Unless someone in the draft falls to them or they can trade up, but they don't have a lot of draft capital. Calvin says, what will the Vikings do to make sure that they don't lose another offensive coordinator? I don't think they have to do a lot. I mean, I think they have to win because if this season doesn't go well, I think the Vikings don't renew Zimmer's contract. And then maybe Kubiak could then be elevated to head coach. But I don't think Kubiak, from a health perspective, wants to be another head coach. I don't think he can. I mean, he retired for that reason. I think he wanted to be an assistant. Now he's a coordinator. I think that's as far as he wants to go, to be completely honest. 10K Beer says, I don't like moving linemen. It doesn't work well here. That's a really good point. I think all of us are really thinking about TJ Clemmings when we talk about that. I mean, Remmers also. But Remmers was moved from tackle to guard, and he never had played guard. Clemmings was a fourth-round guy that was moved everywhere, and it got worse each time. And so I get why. That's why I said I was 100% no. For that reason. But I agree with you. Calvin says, leave O'Neal at right tackle. There's tons of interior O-line in the draft. Yeah, but I'm talking about moving him to left tackle. Maybe I didn't say that right. Again, I'm on a lot of Dayquil that I think was expired. So this... I'm doing my show.
What's your email address?
Joe@purpleptsd.com. All right, I should go. I'm sick and... Yeah, I agree. Elfline, draft-wise. I don't know. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.